In Esther 4, verses 6 through 17, we see the story of Esther and God's choice to use her unfold. Esther started her life as an orphan Jew being raised by her cousin Mordecai. Several years later, the king ordered that all of the beautiful women in the empire were brought to his palace. Esther was one of the women chosen to remain in the palace, and over time, she gained so much favor with the king that she was made queen. This courtship was Persian, which is very different from that of a Jew. So she decided to keep her Jewish lineage a secret. While she was a queen, an order was sent out to kill all of the Jews. The same cousin who raised her was among the Jews facing execution. Her cousin wrote a letter to her with the expectation that she would use her position in the royal family to put an end to the order, saving all of the Jews. Esther wrote back that even as a queen, unless the king specifically asked for her presence, she couldn't just go into his quarters to meet with him. When Mordecai got her letter, he wrote back, "Now, wait a minute. Just because you're in the palace doesn't mean that you aren't still a Jew. You have a responsibility to us and to your lineage, and to allow God to work deliverance in this place, and specifically through you." He goes on to write, "Well, who knows whether you have come to the kingdom for such a time as this?" Esther, after reading his response, decides that she would fast and pray with all the Jews for 3 days, and then, breaking the law, she would go and address the king. Also, she decided within herself that if the king decided to kill her too, then at least she had used her position and the specific place that God had her to try to help her people live another day. Through this story, you see a person from an unfortunate background rise to a place of royal position and authority. Each instant of preparation and favor that Esther experienced were all geared towards her being ready to follow God's will and God's timing. Now, maybe you're not in a royal court, or maybe you don't work for the government at all, but God is certainly preparing you for a specific moment. I encourage you to look for a moment of clarity, a moment where you realize that your background happened so that your plight and your experience could be used for the Father to glorify Himself. A moment where you realize that all the things happened in your life so that you had the tools to work according to God's plan, according to our Heavenly Father's plan, for a future story of hope and redemption. So are you ready? Are you willing to put aside your own personal comforts to follow God's will in your life? Say this prayer with me. God, I realize that every good thing in my life comes from you. I know that you have a plan for my life, and I'll choose to follow it. God, open my heart wide enough to allow a strong desire for your will to fill it. Strengthen my feet so that they walk in your direction. Give my ears so that they hear your word. And give my hands the ability to build according to your instructions. Today, how will you allow God to use your position for the advancement of His kingdom?